Hey folks, Nathan here. This is my channel and this is a continuation of Nate's favorite deck building games. In this case, we are circling back around, hence the episode number where this is in the playlist despite being recorded much later, to Star Realms, which was the very first deck building game that I covered on this playlist. And in this case, we're taking a look at a new set of releases here at the end of 2016. We have Promo Pack 1, and we have a new expansion handled very much the same way as what we saw with the last expansion, called United. You may recall that a while back, we looked at that Crisis expansion, and the whole idea was that rather than having one big box that you were to buy as an expansion, instead, they took the expansion and split it up into 4 separate packs, always with the same cards in each one, and you could pick and choose which aspects of Crisis you wanted to actually introduce into your game. In this case, United has done the same thing, albeit numbered on the packages as 1 of 4, 2 of 4, and so on here, for what are referred to as Assault, Command, Missions, and Heroes. But the general concept is that things have gotten crazy in Star Realms, and those 4 factions oftentimes are now uniting and forming unexpected alliances to go up against other rivals. So you'd find instances where in many of these packs, you have ships, bases, and things like that that actually apply to more than one faction at a time, something we haven't seen previously in Star Realms. So let's start with the one that's not part of United, just to get it out of the way. This is Promo Pack 1. Promo Pack 1 includes cards that were promo cards previously released for Star Realms for various events, various circumstances, and so on. You wind up with 15 in this, and they all have new art. So if you have the old promo cards, that's still special because the art will be different, but the card functionality is now carried over here, so these promo cards that were so hard to get and so rare in the first place can now be part of, hopefully, anyone's game for just a few dollars. I guess to be fair, I should say, I said a few dollars. It is a $10 pack. It's the most expensive of these, but these are promo cards that in many cases people have been searching for a while. It's certainly cheaper than trying to get all the originals on somewhere like eBay. That brings us to the actual United expansion. And the first of these, they're all 12 cards, $5 per pack, we have is Assault. And Assault gets into that merging here. So for instance, here we have a Blob/Star Empire ship. Here, we have the Star Empire combined with the Trade Federation. Here, the Machine Cult combined with Trade Federation, and so on. So Machine Cult and Blob. So what we have is this interesting situation where we have faction pairs where they work together, and essentially it has the ability to enact any of those ally abilities that you see in the game for either of the faction that it's connected to. So if you put out a card like this, then that can activate those ally abilities for Blob or Star Empire, either one, rather than being just limited to one faction. Pretty straightforward. And of course, it's ships, it's bases, pretty much what you would expect from just standard expansion cards for Star Realms. The key difference being the uniting of factions. The second is Command. Very similar, a pack of 12 cards, various ships, bases, and whatnot, that all, of course, are multi-faction, 2 factions combined together under the theme of United. The latter 2 have some new mechanics to them, rather than just being about multi-faction. We have missions here. Missions is different. Okay? For missions, they give you a little breakdown here, it creates alternate win conditions for the game. You have these missions sitting around face down that only you can see. And if on a turn you were to meet the objective of that mission, then the mission flips face up once per turn, 1 mission per turn maximum, and you get a reward. But if you were to flip over 3 of these because you've completed 3 of the missions that were handed out to you, then you win the game, regardless of the authority level of the opposing player. They may be beating your butt on everything from the base game. You put these into play, and the base game rules aren't the only way to win. These missions can be a ticket for someone who is perhaps overmatched to still be able to win the game because you're able to meet certain objectives rather than just attacking the other side. Then finally we have heroes. But the heroes for United work a little bit differently here. Okay? A hero from United gets pulled in the same way as any other card can, and when played has an ability for that turn, and then also has a scrap ability. Scrap the card, get that extra benefit. This is different than what happened back in Crisis. In Crisis, you'd have a hero, you'd acquire it and immediately put it into play off to the side. And then when you wanted to actually use its ability, for the bulk of them, you would have to go through and scrap them to use anything from that hero. But they were always sitting there waiting. These aren't always sitting there waiting, but when you play them during a given turn, they have an ability, yet there's still that scrap extra attached to each of them. So kind of a combination of the older version of heroes from Crisis mixed in with just these standard cards we expect from Star Realms. So all in all, we've got a nice new wave of expansions here. For Star Realms, the 4 United expansions, in this case, being sort of game changers. We have the multi-faction aspect, which you would expect eventually for a game based on factions and faction abilities, very much like we saw with Realms Unraveled back in Ascension. The missions do add a game-changing feature when it comes to changing the win conditions, and it's nice to see the heroes back, but having more to do than just sit there until you're ready to scrap them to make use of a one-time ability. As for the promo pack, it's a little pricey compared to the other ones at $10 instead of $5, but it does include a lot of those more sought-after promo cards, and they went through the process of giving them new art, which is certainly somewhat nice for those who may already have some of these. So a little over 60 new cards and some new mechanics for the Star Realms deck building game, all for about $30 if you picked up all of these at retail.